Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Office Hours Politics Edition. I'm your host, Ziana Aly, and today's episode is a special one. I say that all the time. I need to look at a thesaurus. Anyways, it is about teaching you how to read political claims without being led by them. One of the biggest problems in politics right now, and I would extend that to say it's a societal issue, isn't necessarily misinformation. It's unexamined information. We are surrounded by speeches, headlines, policy announcements, expert opinions, common sense takes. And don't even get me started on how much we consume online. And the scary part is most of these sound reasonable. Political power today doesn't rely on obvious lies. It relies on framing, selective truth, emotional shortcuts, and psychological pressure. So in this episode, I'm going to give you a toolkit, something you can actually use. And by the end, you should be able to hear a political claim and ask, what exactly is being claimed? How is it framed? What is being assumed? What is missing? Whose benefits this? Who benefits if I accept this? That's political literacy. So let's start with what political claims actually are. Most political claims are not lies necessarily. They're partial truths arranged to lead you somewhere. Politics rarely sounds like, here is something false. It sounds like, here is something true but incomplete. That's why fact-checking alone is never enough. A statement can be factually correct and still deeply misleading. So instead of asking, is this true? We need to ask, true in what way, compared to what, and for whose benefit. Before you critique anything, you need to identify what the claim actually is. Political language is often vague on purpose. For example, this policy will improve national security. Ask, security for whom? From what threat? Over what time frame? Measured how? If you can't restate the claim clearly in your own words, that is a red flag. A lot of political arguments happen because people argue with the outcomes without agreeing on what's being claimed. Clarity is step one. Step two is spot the framing. Once you know the claim, look how it's framed. Framing is about language choice. Compare security with militarization. Efficiency versus cuts, reform versus rollback, stability versus status quo. Framing turns political choices into moral necessities. When something is framed as security, opposition sounds reckless. When something is framed as responsibility, disagreement sounds immature. Translate the claim into neutral language. Ask, what would this sound like without the emotional packaging? Step 3. Find the assumptions. Every political claim rests on assumptions. This is where ideology lives. For example, economic growth benefits everyone. Assumptions being, growth is evenly distributed, growth improves quality of life, harm is temporary or acceptable. Those are not facts, they're beliefs. Ask, what must be true for this claim to work? Are those things actually true? Who decided they were obvious? Assumptions are very powerful because they go unchallenged. Step 4, ask what's missing. Political claims are defined as much by absence as presence. Ask whose perspective is missing, what consequences aren't being discussed, what alternatives are ignored. And one of the most common closure tactics is there is no alternative. That is not a fact, it's a boundary. Always ask alternative for whom, under what constraints, imposed by who. Step 5, follow the power. Now the most important question is who benefits if this claim is accepted. Not who supports it publicly, but who gains money, authority, legitimacy, or insulation from criticism. Intentions are cheap. Outcomes reveal priorities. If a policy expands state power, protects corporate interests, and limits public participation, that matters more than the rhetoric. Now let's talk mechanisms. Logical fallacies. And if you are interested in philosophy, I would like to hope you already know some of these. But logical fallacies are patterns of bad reasoning that feels convincing. Politics built on them. So first, there is the straw man argument. Misrepresenting an argument so it's easier to attack. Ask, is this responding to the strongest version of the argument? Then there's the false dichotomy, presenting only two options, either this or chaos. Ask, who decided that these were the two options? Because 9 99.9% of the time, it's not just two options. Appeal to fear, urgency, and a vague threat. Fear shuts down thinking, slow down when fear appears. Then there's appeal to authority. Experts agree. Experts matter, but authority is not an argument. Ask which experts. Funded by whom? Then there's the naturalizing fallacy. That's just how the world works. Markets are designed, systems are built. Ask natural for whom? Enforced how? Then there's moral blackmail. If you cared, you'd support this. Caring about a problem does not require supporting a specific solution. Then there's individualization, turning structural problems into personal failures. Whenever blame flows downward instead of upward, pause. Now let's move on to common debate strategies. Debates aren't about truth. They're about terrain. There's agenda control, deciding what question is being asked. Let's talk about how to improve this instead of should this exist. Moving the goalposts. Standards change once criticism lands. Flooding. Overwhelming with data so nothing else gets evaluated. There's the moderation trap. Framing extremes so the center seems reasonable, even if it's harmful. And there's tone policing, focusing on how something is said to avoid what is being said. Now let's talk psychology. Political messaging works because humans avoid uncertainty, seek social belonging, and prefer simple narratives, as well as fear of exclusion. There's the cognitive ease. Simple explanations feel true. Authority bias. We trust confidence over accuracy. There's the status quo bias. Change feels risky, even when the status quo is harmful. And then the moral comfort. Feeling good replaces doing good. And I just wanted to add this element of psychology into this conversation because it explains why political messaging prioritizes emotion over explanation. There have been so many US presidents that have that charisma, that have that charm, that know how to talk, and the people love them for it. Okay, now let's apply this. Let's apply everything we were talking about, and let's create a case study. Claim this policy is necessary for national security. Step by step. So, claim security improves. The framing of it is fear and urgency. The assumptions behind this claim is the threat is real and policy works. What is missing from this claim? Costs, alternatives, civilian harm. And power expands state authority. The logical fallacies used in this claim would be a false dichotomy, appeal to fear, and appeal to authority. The debate strategies behind this claim would be agenda control and moral blackmail. And the psychology behind this claim is fear and uncertainty equals complacency. Once you slow down, this claim collapses into choices, not necessity. Being politically informed isn't about having the right opinions. It's about knowing how opinions are produced. When you can read political claims critically, you're harder to manipulate, harder to rush, harder to silence. And that's exactly why these skills are rarely taught. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you learned something, like this video, comment down below. Let's talk about logical fallacies. Let's talk about crazy headlines. Until next time, stay curious, stay politically aware, and don't just ask what you're being told. Ask why it's being told to you. Thank you guys. Bye.